Meet the Mets, meet the Mets. Step right up and greet the Mets. Bring your kiddies, bring your wife. Guaranteed to have the time of your life, because the Mets are really socking the ball, knocking those home runs over the wall. East side, west side, everybody's coming down to meet the METS Mets of New York town. Oh, the butcher and the baker and the people on the streets, where do they go? To meet the Mets! Oh, they're hollering and cheering and they're jumping in their seats. Where do they go? To meet the Mets! All the fans are true to the orange and blue, so hurry up and come on down, 'cause we got ourselves a ball club, the Mets of New York town. Give 'em a yell! Give 'em a hand! And let 'em know you're rooting in the stand. Meet the Mets, meet the Mets. Step right up and greet the Mets. Bring your kiddies, bring your wife. Guaranteed to have the time of your life, because the Mets are really socking the ball, knocking those home runs over the wall. East side, west side, everybody's coming down to meet the METS Mets of New York town, of New York town.
How's it going, Mets and baseball fans? Thank you all so much for chiming in to a breaking news, a breaking announcement. And all it took was not even a full 24 hours for the Mets to part ways with their current managers, that being in Luis Rojas. He's done as Mets manager, as they have announced today through Mets Twitter and everywhere, and SNY currently, as they are live at the time of being live here as well, that yes, they will not be extending him beyond his current contract. While the Mets do have interest and would be more than welcome to have Rojas back in the organization, all things are turning that's unlikely at this point in time, given Rojas' future. But there's a lot to break down here, folks. Again, I know a lot of you guys have been advocating to see Rojas done as Mets manager. I've been telling you guys for literally how long now that if the Mets don't make playoffs, I don't see Rojas coming back. I'm a little surprised to see them do this that quick, but at the same time, I really shouldn't be. So now the Mets will be on the hunt for a new manager, along with the new president of baseball operations, whole front office, all that fun stuff. This happened before we can even get started with our offseason live stream at 7 p.m. So we should still be doing that discussion, because there's a lot more to break down than Rojas. We'll focus just on Rojas today. But again, folks, thank you all so much to everybody that's first chiming in the live stream. Appreciate you guys. See a lot of you guys here. See Hector. I see Jamal, Koala, Jason, Brandon, Hayek, K2, Rob, James, Forgiveness for Love, Singh, going down the list further, Charlie, Matt. Thank you all so much for chiming in, guys. Tremont, Ryan, Jose, all you guys, really appreciate it. I want to know what everyone's initial reaction is, folks, chiming in. Are you happy? Are you dissatisfied with Luis Rojas done as manager? I think there's a universal acceptance that most Mets fans were done with Rojas as manager. And while everything that went wrong for the Mets this year isn't all to blame on Rojas for sure, no less, there had to have been a changing of a guard. And here we already have that decision made before the Mets even get a front office hire, which you can argue is a little surprising. But to me, at the end of the day, Rojas seemed like he was done. Had a terrible second half of the Mets this season. As you see, his record as a New York Mets manager is roughly 20 games below 500. So I first want to thank everyone that's chiming in, guys. Let me know your initial reaction. This is the start of what is bound to be a crazy offseason, folks. Make sure to smash that like and subscribe button if you're just chiming in as well. Crazy news again to see Rojas gone. We will be getting into a lot more on just why exactly has everything went the way it has for Rojas at this point. How much is there to actually pin on him? What are my personal viewpoints on Rojas along with everyone's in the chat? We'll be opening up and obviously a Q&A, hearing all your thoughts here, folks, and also getting into some potential fits for manager for the Mets. As early and as premature as it is, the Mets are going to be doing a lot in a very short period of time this offseason, and it does, in fact, go in hand with hiring a new manager for sure. But again, shout out to everybody that's first chiming in, guys. Appreciate you. Gerald, great member on the channel. How can we lose with Gigi, the rally rabbit? Exactly. And me as manager, Gerald, we would be 162-0 next year. No doubt in my mind. No less. All jokes aside, I appreciate your support, buddy. Let's see here. Bob Melvin is the guy. Yes, Bob Melvin is the guy that's been getting a lot of talk about since the Ken Rosenthal report came out on this potential fit with not just Bob Melvin, but also Billy Beane as part of a package deal, if you will, for front office and managerial. Who do I think the Mets bring in as manager? It's really premature to say. There are a lot of different names being thrown out there, a lot of unrealistic names in my mind too. But we'll be getting into that further here shortly. Give Wardy the job. I'll thank you, Kyle. You're too kind, buddy. But again, thank you all so much, everybody being here. Smash that like and subscribe on. Help us get a 50 likes for the first short-term goal. And let me know your initial reaction here. Also, guys, to Rojas' tenure with the Mets being done, at least as manager. I think if we had to make playoffs for him to stay. I agree with you, Greg, and I said that going into the season. And as someone who bounced left and right with my personal thoughts on Luis Rojas as manager for the Mets, and thinking personally what was best fit for him, I did not think that the Mets would continue their contract with him in a scenario where they didn't make playoffs. And obviously, they didn't just have a bad second half. They went from being like over 100 days, straight in first place in the division to falling below 500 on the season. So it's unfortunate. I have nothing personal against Luis Rojas whatsoever. I wish him nothing but the best. I would love it if he stays in the organization, which is what he's done for the past 16 years. But if Rojas' intent is in fact to stay, to actually be a MLB manager across the league, then odds are he's going to probably part ways with the Mets and try for a managerial position elsewhere with a team that's also looking for a new manager, because obviously there are bound to be more firings or just people with contracts not being extended to happen heading into the offseason for teams that had down years for sure. But I see a lot of different comments in here, folks, so let me address to it. And Scott, I'm not even going to give you the light of day. You've been a Michael Conforto hater since the guy was born. So that's enough from you, Scott. We aren't even getting into those discussions. This is a Rojas-centric stream today. Mets are married to the Athletics' former front office now. I mean, it definitely looks like that way. That's possible. And Unhinged Yanks, Wardy for manager, my man. Everyone, shout out Unhinged Yanks. Make sure to subscribe to my boy Pat if you enjoy great baseball content. Even though that, yes, it is Yankee-centric. He'll be covering the wild card game, though, and a lot more. So definitely check him out. Appreciate the kind words. Just heard about Rojas, not shocked. Neither am I. Independent outsider, great member on the channel. Thank you for being here. No one should be shocked by this news whatsoever. If you're shocked by this news, then in my mind, you haven't been following along this offseason throughout the season personally. But even with all things aside, folks, it's going to be crazy knowing that it only took one day for the Mets to make a managerial change to actually get rid of Rojas. And as I will say plenty of times, and I will continue to right now, folks, Rojas being done with the Mets, in my mind, isn't based solely on his decision-making, as it is not just his decisions, but simply the direction that the team went down this year. Anything and everything went wrong for the Mets this year. They have a complete overhaul that's happening in their front office. They're going to have an overhaul to a certain extent with the roster. We're making some crucial decisions that are going to be had for sure. And that ultimately all kind of combined into one that is unfortunately Rojas not being with the Mets anymore as manager. So I'm wishing him nothing but the Mets, nothing personal. Really like the guy. He seems like a great human being. You know, I've only heard great things about him. The belief, however, from what's been reported through SNY already, as they are doing their live stream as well covering this, is that it's not really surprise in hand because of the fact that Rojas supposedly gave too much leeway to the players, which if you look at how the years went on with certain players over others, it's not hard to believe that notion whatsoever. So that very well could have been the case for Rojas. You know, I could sit here right now and nitpick all the bad moves that he made this year, but no less, I think it was just a cultivation of everything that went wrong for the Mets in 2021 that led to his departure. Would I hire Girardi if he gets fired? Personally, I'm not in favor of Girardi. I think there's just a lot more of the same issues to a certain extent. My stance on Girardi is a lot different than what it once was when the Mets were interested in him to be a hire. I don't necessarily think Joe would be terrible or bad, but I have my natural concerns with him, just like I do with a lot of other managerial options for sure. But again, guys, thank you all so much that are chiming in the live stream. Breaking news again, if you haven't noticed over the past half hour to an hour, Luis Rojas is officially done as the manager of the New York Mets. The Mets will not be extending him, giving him a new re-signing, if you will, to his contract heading into 2022. There's potential for him to stay in the organization, but from everything that's been indicated to this point, it feels unlikely. So again, guys, if you're just chiming in, make sure to smash that like and subscribe button. Help us get to 100 likes for the first short-term goal, and let me know your initial thoughts here in the comments, in the chat, as always, folks. It's always appreciated. I want to know how you're feeling at this point in time. His biggest problem was bullpen and lineup usage. In a nutshell, yes. I mean, he definitely had issues with the bullpen for sure, and he also definitely had issues with the lineup construction. Just naturally, what a manager is supposed to do, Luis wasn't consistent with, and there was a hypocritical sense at times for him, unfortunately, where he said that, we'd be backing the numbers, but then he would have certain matchups that don't back the numbers. It was a lot. And for a guy that didn't have any MLB managerial experience, there were definitely a lot of high points for him, especially with the adversity that the Mets faced earlier this season, with all the injuries that they had and were able to overcome, staying in first. That is where I was as big of a Luis Rojas advocate as you can get. But clearly that was very short-lived. And unfortunately for Rojas' sake, that would ultimately start the downward spiral, the snowball effect, if you will, going towards his ending of a tenure with the Mets as manager. Dave Joust season. I don't see Joust coming in as manager, but I do love Dave Joust no West on the bench for the Mets. The players should be held accountable. Yes, they absolutely should be, and they will be come this offseason. Yes, while the Mets aren't going to do a complete rebuild or anything like that, they are destined to make changes with this roster for sure. They cannot run it back with the same roster next year and expect different results, drastic results no less. That just is not going to happen. Blockbuster front office trade Bean and Melvin for no, that wouldn't happen. Sandy would stay. Sandy would be a driving force to make those two come, not the other way around. What's up, Wardy? Says Michael. I think Clinton Hurdle is a dark horse candidate. Was manager in Mets Myers for many years. I'm not sold on the Mets necessarily staying in-house again for a manager, like someone within their minors and stuff like that. I really think it's best for them to go to an outside source here. I will say, however, I think the biggest question that I've had on my mind, and I've really had this thought process for easily a month and a half now. I've really come around on it after thinking that it was not a possibility whatsoever, is Carlos Beltran. Everybody in the chat, let me know your thoughts. What is your intrigue or lack thereof of Beltran potentially coming back in and getting a good go around of things again as manager? He was never given the opportunity. He was anointed it, and then the scandal happened with the Astros, as we know. He stepped away. The Mets instead went with Luis Rojas as a pivot selection. And Steve Cohen, prior to buying the Mets, when he tried to buy the Mets the offseason prior, he said that he was really intrigued and satisfied to see what Beltran could do as manager. And obviously that never happened. So is this a relationship that'll rekindle itself? That's really the big thing. Because when you look at the managerial market for guys that are, that are managers that are, say, past their prime, if you will, it's not a big one. And there aren't too many names that I'm unbelievably satisfied with. And while I'm not sold on Beltran at all, because this is a guy that doesn't have any experience managing, that's my biggest critique with him. I also am not sold on the notion of getting a guy that's a complete opposite, unless it's someone who's established in the game right now that I honestly would be in very much favor of. And that's a guy that still feels like a long shot, and being Bob Melvin. So yeah, I see a lot of different back and forth here in the chat right now on either being in favor or against Beltran, and rightfully so. I think that either way, if the Mets found themselves circling back to him, it's going to leave some people really happy. It's going to leave a lot of people really confused as to, why are we turning to a guy that doesn't have any managerial experience? As great of a player as he was, don't get me wrong, and pardon me, and his connection to the Mets over the years, not just as a player, but just overall, there is, like anything else, a lot of natural concern in this scenario where you would bring in Carlos Beltran. There's really a lot of concern for most hires that you'd go after. I think there's only a select few, like a Bob Melvin to a certain extent, where I think that is warranted being a good pickup. Ron Darling, I don't see Ron happening at all, Nathan. No, that feels beyond far-fetched. But I just put in a super chat that said no to Beltran. Oh, did he really? I'll definitely check it out if you did. Again, thank you so much for the donation. Oh, wait, you know what? I think I missed it. Let me go back. What was your donation? I saw there was a $2 dono. Thank you so much for the dono, buddy. But what was your remark again? I don't know why I missed it. Maybe let me go back up in the chat here. I got to find it. Okay, here it is. My mistake. Independent outsider $2 donation. Thank you so much. Just hire experienced coach. No Beltran hires, please. Oh, there you go. That's actually pretty funny. Thank you so much again for the donation, though, my man. I appreciate that. And guys, we were 15 likes away from 50. What are you doing? Smash that like and subscribe button. Off-season content is under full swing here with Luis Rojas done as manager of the New York Mets, folks. Darren, what's up, my man? Great member on the channel. Hey, Rory, just got home from work. 9 p.m. Here, and just seeing the news. Personally happy. And like you say, it's coming and it was expected. Any reports he will stay on with the team in a different role? Yes, the Mets have interest, but there's a uncertainty as to if Rojas does. And something tells me that Rojas won't want to stay with the Mets. I think he's going to potentially want to go pursue being a manager elsewhere because it's obvious that he won't be able to have that potential again with the Mets, at least not anytime soon. A Melvin trade would work in a scenario where really Billy Beane would be a part of it, and the Mets would have to give up a good lump sum to acquire them from the A's. That's really how it would work. It wouldn't be a trade based on assets as it would be financially. The Mets would have to cough up a good amount of money. And Melvin doesn't feel much likely unless Beane is obviously a part of it. Beane would be the bigger part of a Melvin deal, if you will. This is best day of your life since Matty. I know a lot of people are satisfied by this news. I feel bad for Rojas personally, but I'm satisfied as a Mets fan that's ready to get full swing into the offseason. The Mets were not hesitant whatsoever with making this happen. And in my mind, that's satisfying to see. Halfway to 100 likes, guys, in the chat already. You guys are the best. Thank you so much. Where the Mets Twitter said he will stay within the organization, but his next position. Well, I don't think there's certainty on if he'll stay in the organization. It's just that the Mets are willing to bring him back to keep him in the organization. That's different. Luis says, Worry, would you rather succeed like the Rays, the platoon and analytically driven, or like the Dodgers with stars at every position? I would like to go in both routes because that's what the Dodgers do. The Dodgers are one of the most analytically driven clubs in baseball, and that's exactly what the Rays and the A's are. The difference is they don't have the payroll. So that's the only reason why they've struggled to get over that hump. The Dodgers have one of the best analytics departments that baseball has to offer. So, I'm in favor of the Dodgers mindset, given the dollars the Mets have that they're working with. But by all means, that Dodgers mindset comes from the Rays. That literally comes from the Rays and the A's. So I'm in favor of both. But in a nutshell, the Mets have payroll, so it'd be Dodgers-esque more so than Rays and A's operation. Joe Torre, no chance. I don't see that happening. Buck Showalter, again, Showalter's a big question mark for me. Todd Zeile, I don't see Todd Zeile happening. Todd, I love him. I love him on SNY. I think he's really smart, and I think he's right most of the time with his remarks. But Zeile, I'm not sold on Zeile as manager either. And I know he's one of those names that's been thrown out there lately on SNY, but I'm personally not sold by that notion at all. And my personal opinion. You think Epstein is a new guy and has a manager in mind? Okay. And also keep that in mind, folks. The Mets aren't going to make a managerial hire. They definitely shouldn't until they have a new face of front office. Not until they get a president of baseball operations and a GM, assumably, a manager will not be hired. So they need to make sure they get these front office hires figured out and go from there. Yes, I do believe Instagram and other applications aren't working because I was struggling with them earlier. Ron Washington, I'm going to be frank. I don't have a deep background on Ron Washington, so let me look him up. Oh, Ron Washington from the Braves? I don't think so. I don't necessarily think that's the route they should go. Again, it's a huge question mark with who they're actually going to bring in as hires. I genuinely do not know right now, and I don't think anyone knows. If we're being honest here, it's all speculative right now for sure. The Mets need way more than a new manager. Well, they have to do more than a manager for sure. Are they going to let Rojas talk? No. Rojas will not be an oppressor. He already made remarks of just gratitude and thanking the Mets organization for everything. No, you're not going to. Almost never, I feel like you see an actual manager or someone in front office or hired that's been fired, like let go, make a actual physical announcement where it's like a live stream or a show. That doesn't happen. They normally come out with a written statement or they give a statement that's then ran out. Hire Todd Frazier? No way. But again, folks, if you're just chiming in, the Mets are in fact done with Luis Rojas as manager of the club after 2 seasons, a shortened season in 2020, thanks to Carlos Beltran's scandal that happened that led him to not being manager. And the Mets going with their pivot of pick to Rojas, who worked himself up in the Mets organization over the past 16 years now. He's been with the club in one way, shape, or form, working himself up in the minors, has been fantastic with the team as well, knows so many of the players that he's worked up with through, all the way from single A all the way to triple A. And while he's been a great team player with the team when it comes to, trying to have their back to a certain extent and actually helping them develop it throughout their young careers to get them where they want to be now, Rojas, a 103 and 120 record, it's definitely not all on him, but we all know that change needed to be had here. And Rojas, I always said going into the year that if the Mets did not make playoffs, Rojas' tenure with the Mets would be done. So, it all adds up in the end. I wish him nothing but the best. But now here's the real question of what's next, right? And I think what I want to touch on here, folks, is what was brought up by Jim Duquette for S&Y, which I don't agree with a lot of these picks whatsoever, but I want to bring them up to you folks. So here, give me 1 second, and we're going to do that. Pardon me. Let's go to S&Y quick. I want to show you guys this news. All right, folks, here. Everybody listen up. So S&Y, if you didn't see this is according to Jim Duquette. Again, I don't agree with most of these. I'm going to be honest with you. I want to know what your thoughts are, though, folks, so definitely see this. All right, folks, this is according to Jim Duquette. This is what came out recently at 3:30, so just a half hour ago. These were Duquette's early picks on potential Mets managers. There is only, honestly, like 2 here that I think, at 2 to 3 that I think are logical. Outside of that, I see little to none. So everybody, let me know your thoughts in the chat here. According to Jim Duquette, he has the following, and that is going to be Carlos Beltran, Ron Washington, who we just discussed briefly, Eduardo Perez, who was one of the final candidates for the spot back when Beltran ended up getting it in the end. As if you guys don't know, Eduardo Perez is currently a analyst for ESPN. He covers baseball games for them. Former player, obviously. Bob Melvin via trade. Clint Hurdle, Joe McEwen, Buck Showalter. That's been a hot commodity. Todd Zeal, of course, for S&Y, former New York Met. John Gibbons and Michael Caro. Miguel, pardon me. I'm going to be frank. I don't have a great background on all these guys, so I'm going to have to do my homework. But there's really, really only a couple that stand out to me, to be honest with you. So everybody in the chat right now, what out of these picks, what do you like, if at all? Wait, let's switch back here for a second. Some people hyped about John Gibbons. People, okay, let's do a quick background search on John Gibbons here. Because again, I've been waiting for more names to float out there before actually doing my full homework. Oh, Gibbons. Yes, he was a former manager of the Blue Jays. Duh. I don't know. I completely forgot about him. John Gibbons. Okay. All right, folks, let me know in the chat. Would you guys like to go just one by one on these managers and their statistics on their records, what they've done to this point? Are you guys curious? Do you want to do something like that? Because we can do that if you guys are down. That's fine with me. What does it mean to trade for a manager? Awfully similar to trading for a player. Just the Mets wouldn't be giving up physical assets more than likely. They would just be giving up a lump sum, a certain amount of money in order to acquire him. Okay, folks. All right. So of this list of Carlos Beltran, Ron Washington, Eduardo Perez, Bob Melvin, Clint Hurdle, Joe McEwen, Buck Showalter, Todd Zeal. Okay, let's start with Gibbons because a lot of you guys seem to be intrigued by Gibbons. We'll go to Buck Showalter. I know plenty about Buck. We'll go to Gibbons, go to Showalter. There's some guys you can't even do homework on because they've never been managers, though, and that's in my mind a little bit of a red flag. But I think experience is important here. And as I say that, maybe the Mets are going to hire Beltran. So I honestly have no clue. So, okay, getting into this now. Let's share the screen again. And thank you for being here, beauties. Smash that like and subscribe on if you're enjoying the stream, folks. Okay. I don't know if you can see the numbers well there, guys. Maybe we'll do it like this. Okay. Hopefully you guys can see the numbers there. Nope. There we go. Okay. The numbers might be a little hazy to you guys, but John Gibbons throughout his career, with Toronto, all with Toronto. Yeah, his last couple years in Toronto were not good. Granted, the teams were suspect at times. That was kind of before the churning of the changing of the tide, if you will, with Toronto's like new regime and new young core. But final 2 seasons, he was 73 and 89 in 2018, 76 and 86 in Toronto. 2016, as we know, Toronto 89 and 73, 93 and 69, the peak year in 2015. We know that run very well for the Blue Jays. So throughout his career from 2004 to 2018, all with the Blue Jays, John Gibbons has a managerial record of above 500 at 793 at 781, 59 years of age, just in the wheelhouse of a Bob Melvin. To give you guys perspective on just that same age area, I do believe Bob Melvin and Billy Beane are both 59 apiece. So now we'll go into Bob Melvin. Bob Melvin is someone that I'm very high on. I don't know about you guys. He's one that, it might be the hardest to get. Okay, let's see. I want him as a manager here, not these stats. Hold on, folks. I've talked about this before on the channel. Okay, folks. Bob Melvin. Long tenured manager. Started in 2003 with the Seattle Mariners, as we know. Had a great first year with them. 93 and 69. I can't speak. He's been with the Oakland A's since 2011, though. And he's been really good. He is a manager of the year under his belt as well. They fell short this year, won 86 and 76, but did not make playoffs. Still a winning season by 10 games over 500. Won 36 and 24 last year. And even though that playoffs haven't been deep for the A's, knowing the kind of rosters that he's dealing with, it's that more important to realize just how good he's been as a manager. 97 and 65 in 2019 with the A's. Same exact record in 2018. Below 500 record in 2017. Same thing in 2016, 2015. Above 500 in 2014, 88 and 74. 96 and 66 in 2013. And 2012, 94 and 68. So overall, he's been a really winning manager throughout his career. I think Bob Melvin's a perfect pick if they can get him in a Billy Beane scenario. But throughout his career, 18 years as manager, he has 1,346 wins to 1,272 losses for a win percentage of .514. His win percentage with the Oakland A's is his highest of his career with any other team versus at 528 at 853 wins and 764 losses. So yeah, I'm big on Melvin. I know that there's a lot of controversy with him, like anyone else, just on how he will adapt, but he is a guy that can handle the New York market. If you guys don't know that Bob Melvin is a former Mets scout back around 1994, he was a former Mets scout, and the Yankees even tried desperately to get Bob Melvin back after Girardi's time was done with the Yankees, but that fell short because the ownership for the A's said, no, we're not going to allow you to do it. So they were not allowed to interview, awfully similar to the Mets when it came to President Baseball Operations, trying to get people last year, right? They did not even hire President Baseball Operations directly in hand with teams not allowing them to do interviews, to, make these things happen with these young minds, executives. And that was a similar situation with the Yankees. But Bob Melvin, interesting. Now we'll get on to Ron Washington. Look up Ron Washington here quick. Ron Washington is not a pick for me, personally. Yeah, Ron hasn't managed since 2014 too. Yeah, I'm not Ron Washington. I know that he had some good years with Texas, but it's not doing enough for me. He's 69 years of age already. I have concerns with that as well. I know that you're getting a guy more so on the short term than the long term, but still. Let's see here. So managerial throughout his career, Washington in 8 years has a 521 win percentage, 664 wins to 611 losses. In 2014, his final year, bad year, 53 and 87. Years prior, though, he went on a really, really nice, looks like 5-year stretch of really 6 year stretch of above 500 from 2009 to 2013 with the Texas Rangers. As we know, they were dominant in the early 2010s, 87 to 75 first year, then won the AL pennant with them in 2010, 90 and 72, 96 and 66 in 2011 AL pennant, and then 2012, 93 and 69, and then 91 and 72. That is the status there on Ron Washington. Again, guys, continue. Let me know your thoughts in the chat on who would be your most ideal pick for manager. I would love to hear it, and continue to smash that like and subscribe on, or it becomes the 100th like in the stream. We'll, of course, get a massive shout out as always, folks. So there is incentive. Continue to smash those buttons. And again, thank you so much in advance, folks. It does mean a lot. Now let's get on to Buck. Got to get on to Buck Showalter here. Okay, this is the long one for Buck. Yeah, Buck's another guy, though, 65 years of age. Showalter, with Baltimore for an extended period of time. Correct. He has 20 years of managerial experience, a 506 wins percentage, 1,551 wins to 1,517 losses. His best years came during the time of the New York Yankees, or early in his managerial career when it comes to win percentage, at least. He is most known for, in my mind and for most people's minds, Baltimore Orioles, when they had their run in the early 2010s. Fell off a bit, as we know, his final year managing. And again, this isn't as much on him per se, to a certain extent, as it is the roster configuration he was dealing with. But a 47 wins to 115 losses as his final year, 2018. A huge drop off from the year prior. But again, a lot of changes happened on the roster, so keep that in mind. 75 and 87 in 2017, 89 and 73 wins, more wins than losses there, over 10 games above 500 in 2016. Even slate at 500 on wins and losses in 2015 at 81-81. 96 wins, looks like a career best for him with Baltimore. His best year, however, was in 1999 with the D-backs going 162. Great record there. But 96 and 66 in 2014, 85 and 77 in 2013, 93 and 69 in 2012, and then 69-93 in 2011. So he's had some good years, he's had some bad years, but the context is definitely in hand with the rosters he was dealing with for sure. I know a lot of people will want Showalter, and I'm one of those where I have my concerns with him. I think that the Mets can go down a different route personally, but I understand why he's appealing given his resume and given the fact that, unlike a Bob Melvin situation, you wouldn't have to trade for him, obviously, right? So you would be able to get him, sign him to whatever contract, a shorter term deal, I'd imagine. Maybe, 2-3 years, I would say, would make sense personally. And, that's really it. Regarding the other names, I'm really not going to put much stock into them. I think the ones that we discussed here are kind of the biggies. So in a nutshell, going back to what we originally discussed here with Jim Duquette's report, again, I don't see a lot of these names actually making a lot of sense. There's only a select few. But for the people in the back, again, they're just chiming in the stream, folks. You got Carlos Beltran as potential option. Ron Washington, I don't see happening. Eduardo Perez, I do not see happening at all. Bob Melvin via trade, that's an ideal pick for me. Clint Hurdle, Joe McEwen, Buck Showalter, Todd Zeile. Love Todd. I don't think Todd's going to be a Mets manager anytime soon. John Gibbons, Miguel Cara. How you pronounce Miguel's last name? I might be butchering it. But yes, plenty of options here. But in my opinion, just from, a casual look here without deep diving a lot of them, my favorite pick is Bob Melvin. Carlos Beltran, I'm awfully intrigued by, but also awfully nervous by. I'm really intrigued by him, but I'm also really, really skeptical about him as well. John Gibbons is interesting from the Blue Jays. Buck Showalter has that interesting factor given his resume, and some others, I don't know. I really don't know. There's some guys here that just don't resonate well with me. And while I'm not too concerned with age, because again, Bob Melvin's 59, I think he's perfect age, perfectly fine. Guys that, like a Ron Washington pushing 70, age is only a factor so much. It's not like we can critique so much on age. Look, the Mets had a very young GM this year and had a very young manager. Look how it turned out for them. So age can only go so far, but I understand the arguments in certain instances here. I really do. So yes, we'll look up. Hold on. We'll look up at least one more here. Because there, again, some guys I really don't have a great background on. So I'm just having fun looking these guys up at least. Oh, yeah. Clint Hurdle for the Pirates? No way. I don't see that happening. I don't know. Clint Hurdle just doesn't feel ideal to me. And I can't, you can only pin so much on him given Pittsburgh. It's the Pirates, right? I don't. I don't know. You guys want me? Well, hold on. We'll go into the numbers of Hurdle quick. We'll go, but again, take it with a grain of salt. Remember the guy when he actually had a roster around him and when he didn't. That's important to keep in mind. And shout out everybody in the chat, though. Thank you for being here, guys. Smash that like and subscribe button if you're just chiming in. We are 20 likes away from 100, folks. Just a half hour in the stream. As Luis Rojas' tenure as Mets manager is done, nada, out of here. See you, buddy. Nothing personal, but yes, Rojas is done as Mets manager. Now, let's get into here for a sec. I want to get into Hurdle's numbers. Okay, Clint Hurdle, 64 years of age right now, has been a manager in the league, 17 years under his belt between Colorado and Pittsburgh. Has some good years for sure. Absolutely. And I think what's most impressive here, it's just the kind of runs they had in the mid 2010s with the Pirates. And I know that was, Andrew McCutchen prime days. So keep that in mind as well. But, his big years, 2013, 2014, 2015 by far, 94 and 68 with a, terrible payroll in Pittsburgh. Always impressive. 88 and 74 in 2014, 98 and 64. That was his biggest year in 2015 with the Pittsburgh Pirates. Then dropped off a little bit below 500 the following 4 years, leading to his departure. Pardon me, he was above 500 in 2018, just above 82 and 79. So all things considered, he has a respectable career numbers. And Pittsburgh, he has above 500 win percentage. That's actually really impressive. 735 wins to 720 losses over a 9-year span for a 505 win percentage. Overall, in 17 years, has 1,269 wins under his belt to 1,345 losses. Again, being with two teams that have literally zero payrolls and a 485 win percentage. So that is what you need to know about Clint. Let's see. Let's go with, I guess, one more, right? Let me see the background on Joe McEwen because I don't know. Oh, Joe's never even been a manager, has he? Hold on. Yeah, Joe's never even been a manager. Oh, yeah, I don't. Yeah, no, that he is 48, so he's relatively young. I'm curious why his name has popped up. That's interesting to me. Interesting. Very, very interesting. Hold on, folks. Get the background music in there for you again. Interesting picks. All right, I'm gonna go through the comments now. I'm way behind in the chat, folks. So give me a minute. Let's go through it together. And my apologies for the coughing, guys. And I do believe we'll still be going live at 7, folks. So as long as that's fine with you guys, I think we're going to be going live at 7 for at least, I'd say, an hour, 2 hours, maybe. So if you guys are interested in being in the live stream later today on what's next for the Mets, now, clearly we know one part of what's next, right? Make sure to chime in the live stream later today, which will be right around 7 p.m. Eastern time. And that's where we will be going over the entire offseason outlook. It's going to be breaking down more so on Rojas, further on potential picks. We're going to get into really what's next for front office because there's been reports between Theo Epstein, Billy Beane, David Stern, some others. We'll be breaking that down further. Really just the Mets outlook going forward. Now, not outlook approach, because outlook is a separate video that's already pre-recorded. It's a great collab on the channel that will be coming this week. So stay tuned for that, folks. It's a big collab too, a long video. More so on roster configuration than anything else. But it's going to be a deep discussion on just everything regarding the offseason. So make sure you guys chime into that. That's in a couple hours at 7 p.m. We will still be doing that. What's up, my man? Webb's Love. Really hoping that either Epstein or Stearns runs the Mets next. Yes. And again, we'll be talking a lot more about that in tonight's live stream in regards to front office. We're focusing on Rojas being done with the Mets right now and really what is best for them going forward. Almost 10 likes away from 100. Thank you so much, guys. Continue to smash that like and subscribe on. Just chiming in, guys. Send in my resume. Herman, I like the way you think. Let's keep in mind that if they are going to decline Rojas' contract, that means they must have a few candidates in mind already. While that is true to a certain extent, Ryan, I think no less there was going to be changing of the guard here. But I think it would be foolish. The Mets cannot hire someone, in my mind, until they have a new front office in place. You can't be doing that beforehand. I don't want Sandy pulling those strings. He has no right to. He should not be the one making that call. GG for base running coach. Oh my God, she'd make everyone so fast. The Mets would be stealing 10 bags at least a game. Right as manager, not happening. That's just way too unlikely. David lives in the West Coast. No managerial experience. He would really have to work his way to get there, in my mind. Get me Bob Melvin, young, clean, and professional, winner, and experience. Exactly. There's a lot of reasons as to why Bob Melvin is intriguing for sure. Can you please take Dusty Baker's manager? He's not down with us. He's going to be with us next year. I'm not interested in Dusty Baker at all. Dusty's a great guy. He's never been a winner though. He's never gone over that hump. He's gotten close. Dusty Baker is not a guy I would want the Mets to have as manager. Now we have to replace Sandy. Sandy isn't going anywhere. Beltran was picked for a reason before the Astros channel. I'm very intrigued. Yeah, he's a big question mark that I'm very curious to see if the Mets are going to circle back on or not. Question to everybody in the chat right now. Do you think the Mets will, in fact, circle back on Carlos Beltran? Just give me a yes or no in the chat. Let me know what you're thinking, guys. Yeah, and remember, the question is, are the Mets going to circle back on Beltran? Not whether they should or not. It's just it's just simply, are they going to? See a lot of yeses, see a lot of no's. Okay. Hinch has a job. Cora has a job. All that should be disregarded. I'm not sure what you're referring to, Patrick. In regards to Beltran, is that what you're referring to? Oh, that like he should be given a second try? I think a conversation feels pretty likely with Beltran as well. I tend to agree with you guys. Whether we agree on it or are worried about it or positive about it or not, I almost feel it's close to inevitable that they will have Beltran in consideration, if not already. But I will say the one exception where that maybe gets buried quick is a scenario where the Mets do bring in Billy Beane as president of baseball operations, and Bob Melvin comes with him, because then bam, there's your pick. If that can happen, I'm all ears. I'm not against that whatsoever. We'll be talking about Stroman in a video soon. He's not saying he wants to go to the Cubs. He said he's open, and that's because of who interviewed him. Any team that's connected that'll interview Stroman, he will say he's open because he's going to work the market as he should. He's going to be looking for a big payday, as he should. But we'll be talking about more on Stroman in tonight's live stream. Mets Nation, what's up, my man? Elliot, hype in the chat for Elliot. Great supporter on the channel. Hope you're doing well, buddy. I was referring to Beltran's cheating scandal. It should be based on his managerial skills. Yes, I agree. The only issue with his managerial skills is he doesn't have any experience. That's the thing. And I see connections with him and Alex Cora. I really do. But, Cora at least was a bench guy with the Astros. Like, he at least had that experience. Is Beltran so smart, though? And, think about, many have viewed him as a coach later in his career for sure. Has Beltran proven himself enough outside of just being a player to warrant that, you know, he has the mindset to be manager. I think there's that potential, but naturally I have my concern, just like anything else with someone that has a lack of experience, for a better word. If Beltran became manager, no, I do not think cheating would continue. No, I do not stand by that. David with the $5 donation. Hype in the chat for David, folks. The $5 dono. Thank you so much for that, buddy. That means a lot. Hype in the chat. Love to see that. Thank you again, David. What's up, Alb? How's it going? I would hate if they re-signed Rojas. I mean, yeah, well, it's not happening now. So there you go. I was his biggest defender the whole season. And I know, I recognize that in the streams as well, flippity flop. I defended Rojas plenty of times, just like anyone else. He definitely was warranted of getting the respect at times. Just unfortunately for his sake, the second half just was a downward spiral that felt never ending. Thankfully, it finally ended. And the day after, you know, Rojas is done as manager. Goes to show you the Mets incentive. And I said this for a while because everyone was arguing with me all year long. Why won't the Mets fire Rojas? Why won't they do this? Why won't they do that? There was one point throughout the season where I felt, okay, maybe there is potential for Rojas to be fired. But even then, it felt unlikely. And you have to realize with his contract being the way it is, that is why it was perfect sense for the Mets to ride it out and hope for the best. And look, if the Mets made playoffs and had a deep run this year and like exceeded expectations a little bit under Rojas, then yeah, I'd say that they would bring him back at least, you know, for another year. But not making playoffs, I said all year long. You can quote me going back to the last offseason, literally months ago, at least 8 months ago, saying that if the Mets don't make playoffs, I don't understand how Rojas comes back. And all it took was not even 24 hours later, and here we are, folks. The Mets did not re-sign Rojas, Dragon King. That's what we're discussing. He's done as manager. He's been let go. Who do I think has an edge for manager at the moment? Edge? I don't really think anyone really has an edge because front office hires need to be made. Those are the guys that should be really bringing in the next manager. I don't want Sandy Alderson to make that decision because he shouldn't be. So it's hard. It's hard. You can argue Beltran just because of that he was supposed to be here, but even then, that's a little far fetched given that it won't be the same front office that should be making this call. Roberto, what's up, my man? Great member of the channel. He says, I knew it was coming. He had done a terrible job, especially in the second half of the season. Now we must get Theo Epstein and manager who knows how to manage and maintain a good game. I tend to agree with you. Epstein's going to be a huge discussion piece that we will be getting into tonight's live stream. So make sure you guys chime in and stay tuned for that, folks. Definitely chime in for that. And we're right around 100 likes, too. Thank you so much for the support, guys. You know, I love and appreciate you. So thank you so much for that, guys. Definitely means a lot. We'll be going on for at least another 15 minutes, I'd say. We'll probably make this an hour-long live stream, and then we'll get out of here. And then we are going to be, again, live tonight for 7 p.m. Eastern time for what's next for the Mets. And now we got a big discussion piece with Rojas gone. So make sure you turn on those notifications for that as well. A lot that'll be discussed in tonight's live stream. More than just Rojas right now. But I really just want everyone's initial reactions here because Rojas is a guy that going into the year, there are a lot of people, including myself, that were very optimistic on. And I saw a lot of fans as well that were not optimistic about him whatsoever. Felt, that, I already don't like him. We didn't even make playoffs when basically every team made playoffs in the short 2020 season. Now that is over. That is done with. Heading into the season, you guys know very well. If you've been following the channel, I've definitely defended Rojas at times that it's been deemed warranted. But this really all just comes down to, more than anything for me personally, I think for the Mets, is that this needed to be changed. There's something had to give here. We're looking at an entire coaching staff that should not be back with the Mets next year based on everything that went wrong. You can't justify, the players having the down years that they had. Injuries aside, guys still had down years, did not hit runners in scoring position. A broken record, I know, but changes need to be had here. And it starts with Rojas. Now you got to get in the front office. Got to get into a new manager then, figure out the team around him. A lot is going to happen in a very short period of time. But Rojas is one of those that really felt inevitable and has felt that way pretty much since July, really since the downfall of falling out of first. When that became more apparent, that's when it felt like, okay, because before Rojas could get away with some bad managerial decisions if the Mets were still in first, but once this was that slippery slope, inevitable that Hefner is not going anywhere. I do not stand by that at all. I think if there's one guy and that it's in the current Mets coaching staff that should not go anywhere, it's Jeremy Hefner, the Mets pitching coach. He's done a phenomenal job. By no means should he go anywhere. He is probably the one guy that I think is an absolute lock to stay. The Mets part ways with him. I think that's awfully foolish. They should not be doing that. Yeah, I get what you're saying, Weblove, for sure. Gerald says lots of famous ball players have been awful managers in coaching. They were just physical freaks. They couldn't teach anyone. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, just because you're a great ball player doesn't mean you'll be a good manager. Absolutely. That's why there's natural concerns with anyone. Next Rangers review should be the night before the season opener for the Rangers. So next Tuesday, I believe. Dylan with the $5 donation. It is being reported that the Mets might reach out to Brad Ausmus. Interesting. And hold on. Let's look that up. I'm glad he brought that up. Thank you so much for the donation. Hype in the chat for Dylan with the dono. We love and appreciate that, buddy. Thank you so much. Hold on one second, folks. Let me get the music for you again. Where's that report coming from? Oh, my. It's from Jack? I do not want Brad Ausmus. This is according to Jack Ramsey, guys. He covers the Mets for he used to be for Mets Mirage. He doesn't cover for anyone right now, though. He's just he has sources. I don't know how deep they are, but he says that source. It sounds like the Mets might reach out to Brad Ausmus for the managerial opening. Arson and Cohen liked the Connecticut native in 2018, but ultimately went with Callaway, and Ausmus wanted the Tigers or Red Sox job. Ooh, I don't like that. I don't like that. I do not want the Mets to make this hire beforehand. Yeah, I'm not in favor of that, folks. So I genuinely hope they do not make that hire. I hope they don't make a decision. Let me clarify. I really hope the Mets don't make a decision until after a front office is in place. It would be idiotic, especially like it would literally make no sense to me. I get it that they have so much to do in such a short period of time. Don't get me wrong, that's important. Like they literally have an entire front office that they need to change and get hires in. They need a manager, they need their bench coaches, and they need to change the roster all in one offseason. That's a lot. I understand. But that is not something that interests me at all. I don't think that's a smart move. I think you're jumping the gun when you should not be jumping the gun at all. I'm not in favor of that. Steve Cohen just tweeted out the following, folks. Wants to thank Luis for his work as manager. He's a good man who represented the Mets with dignity and calm during 2 extremely trying years. That's very kind from Cohen. I respect that. But yeah, so in a nutshell, I'm not in favor of Brad Ausmus. I'm not. We'll go into his numbers in a second. I think he's terrible? Not necessarily, but I'm not in favor for it. I got to be honest with you. I'm really not. All right, folks, let's get into Brad Awesomeness's numbers. I'm not. Nah. I know his connection to the Mets. I do, but come on. Let's see. All right, folks, hold on. I'm really not. I'm not. No, I don't want this. I don't. With all due respect to Brad, let's keep in mind though, folks, this is one report from one source that is not deep at all. Nothing personal against Jack, but he has a ways away from building his credibility. So if this comes out to be true, then fantastic. I'm happy for him. But in all, just because the Mets may have interest in Awesomeness does not mean that he's a lock, that he's that go-to guy at all. I think they're going to be interviewing a lot of people. I just personally am not in favor of Awesomeness. Going back to 2014, 1972 record, 2015 with Detroit, 74-87, 2016, 86-75, and then 2017, 64-98. His career numbers in 5 years as manager is a 478 wins percentage, 386 wins, 422 losses. And then, yes, he was manager of the Angels in 2019, and he went 72-90. Yeah, in a nutshell, I'm just not in favor of Awesomeness. I don't like that. So I hope that doesn't happen. That's all I gotta say. I don't think it's going to, but I just hope it doesn't. What's everyone's reaction here? I don't think anyone's kind of in the in favor of Brad Awesomeness. I feel like I remember that guy more for getting thrown out of games than actually what he's done as a manager. But yeah, let me know in the chat, guys, how you're feeling. Again, very, very premature. I will not put much stock into it right now. Oh. All right, guys, according to John Shea, who's a national baseball writer for the San Francisco Chronicle, just tweeted this, which we will talk about this more in the live stream again tonight. But listen to this, everybody. Listen to this. All right, I'm gonna share my screen with you again. I'm gonna just keep going in and out of this thing. Hold on, dude. It's the first day of the off season and everything's going crazy. My goodness, I'm not ready. No one's ready. All right, guys, look at this. John Shea, Billy Beane on the Mets speculation didn't want to lend credibility to it. Again, this is according to Billy Beane, and I quote, "It's all press reports." He says it's a compliment to organization when he, Force, Melvin, or others are mentioned like this, didn't confirm nor deny it. But you guys are seeing me tweeting. I forgot. I'm going to tweet this out right now. Only took the first day of the Mets offseason for everything to start breaking out. It sounded like some journalism clicks. Not necessarily. That was just strictly a tweet. That wasn't in reference to an article or anything. The point is that Bean didn't confirm nor deny the connection, if at all, with the Mets, which has been reportedly there, which is something we're going to be discussing further in tonight's live stream. But I just want to throw that out to you guys because that's what was literally just tweeted. Web Love with the $2 donation. Thank you so much for that. Jared Porter was Theo Epstein's discipline risky. I agree it's risky to a certain extent, but I really don't think anything much at all would be coming out of it. I understand there's natural concern, but I also understand that I don't think anything would come from it. Thank you again for the donation, though, but I appreciate that. Bean's only small ball because he's never been given a big ball. You have to understand the context here. But again, we'll be talking about Billy more in tonight's live stream. Listen, me as a fan would do whatever it takes to get TP. Why? Because what he did with Kansas, plus what he did as a manager on WBC undefeated winning. What are your thoughts on him as choice? TP. Who are you in reference? Who are you referring to, Jonathan? Again? Sorry, I must have missed the whole conversation. And Garden State Gardner, thank you so much for the kind words. Thank you for all the great content you have gave over this past several months. Oh, thank you so much. That means a lot by you. I really appreciate that. Thank you for being here. Want someone who can build a minor league organization? That's fair, and the minor leagues are going to continue to be built. Mets need to hire an experienced manager who knows how to run a team, clean house front office, and Cohen needs to act as a not a fan. Mets need to shake up and hope they get it. That's fair. That's fair, Ray. Absolutely. Bet you to watch Moneyball tonight. I love that movie. It is. I really like it. Some people don't, but it's one of my favorite baseball movies. Oh, Tony Pena. Oh, interesting. I wouldn't even Tony. He would. I don't know though. He hasn't managed in a very long time. He only managed 4 years when he was in Kansas City. Yeah, I don't think Pena will even be a consideration, to be quite honest with you. Nothing personal to Tony, but yeah, I don't know. That's interesting. Very interesting. Wow. Yeah, he pitched from 2002 2005. Yeah, I don't know. I think you're the first person to recommend Pena. He's 64 years of age as well. We need knowledgeable baseball people. This is New York. Build a winner. I agree, James. Uncle Steve wanted to resemble the Dodgers. Wake up. I'm pretty sure they are awake. Yes, but I'm confident that they're going to make good moves too. I agree on that one for sure. Oh, okay, Dragon King. Yeah, I wasn't even aware of that, so I'm glad you brought that up in regards to Tony. Interesting. Well, with that being said, folks, I think that's really going to wrap up all there is to be discussed on the current status of Luis Rojas and the Mets. So again, guys, Luis Rojas is done as manager of the Mets. We will be back live on the channel, however, in just a couple hours. So please make sure you're chiming in and staying tuned for that. we will be discussing what exactly is next for the Mets now that their offseason has begun. And we will continue discussions on Luis Rojas and then some. But in a nutshell, this was a great discussion, guys. If you want to talk more so on managers, we'll be getting into that again in tonight's live stream. But I really want to hone in as a whole on everything regarding front office, not just Luis Rojas situation. I want to get more in on what has been reported with Theo Epstein, Billy Beane, and David Stearns, etc. Break them down further in case you guys aren't aware of the situation. So thank you all so much again, guys. I really appreciate it. This was a great live stream. I expect another one tonight and a lot more great content throughout the week and beyond. It's only the beginning, folks, but no less. What a day. What a way to get started here with off-season content with Luis Rojas being done as Mets manager. That's all she wrote. I'll talk to you later, folks. Have a great rest of your night. Hopefully we'll see you back in a couple hours. Thank you again, guys. Peace out.